The sky above Kareth 9 was no longer a sky. It burned. Molten streaks of plasma rained from orbit like the wrath of forgotten gods, carving scars into the once proud citadels of the Varelian Empire. The air trembled with shockwaves, each one carrying the echoes of annihilation, ships breaking apart, buildings collapsing, lives ending. And in the middle of it all, she ran. Commander the Lyra Vare, decorated war tactician of the Varelian High Guard, staggered through a shattered boulevard, her armor cracked and blackened, her breathing uneven. Blood, deep violet, dripped from beneath her chest plate, each step leaving a faint, glowing trail. Her squad was gone. Her fleet obliterated. Her world burning. "Retreat, fall back," she whispered into a dead comm unit, her voice barely audible over the roar of destruction. There would be no retreat. There was nowhere left to go. The enemy had come without warning. No declarations. No negotiations. Only fire. The Lyra stumbled as the ground beneath her shifted, a nearby tower collapsing in a thunderous avalanche of steel and glass. She fell hard, pain exploding through her side. For a moment, she didn't get up. She couldn't. Her limbs trembled. Her vision blurred. The world around her became a distant haze of orange flames and black smoke. This was it. This was how it ended. A commander of 1,000 victories, dying alone in the ruins of her own empire. She let out a bitter, hollow laugh that turned into a cough. "Fitting," she murmured. Then she heard footsteps. Heavy, steady, unhurried. Not the chaotic scrambling of fleeing civilians or the precise march of enemy soldiers. Something else. The Lyra forced her eyes open. Through the haze of smoke, a silhouette emerged. Broad-shouldered, upright, walking into the fire, not away from it. For a fleeting moment, she thought she was hallucinating. Then the figure came closer, and she saw him. Human. She had heard of them. The newcomers. The unpredictable species from the outer spiral arms. Not particularly advanced compared to the galactic powers, but persistent. Stubborn. Dangerous in ways that weren't immediately obvious. But this made no sense. The human war-battered combat gear, scorched and patched in places. His helmet was gone, revealing a face streaked with soot, eyes sharp and alert despite the chaos. He stopped when he saw her. For a second, neither of them spoke. Then he crouched beside her. "You're alive," he said, his voice calm, almost too calm for the apocalypse around them. The Lyra blinked, confused. "You're human," she managed. He gave a small, humorless smile. "Last I checked." Another explosion shook the ground. Debris rained down nearby. He didn't flinch. She stared at him, struggling to understand. "Why are you here?" she asked. "Same reason you are," he replied. "Wrong place. Wrong time." That wasn't an answer. But before she could press further, a distant, mechanical roar echoed through the streets. Enemy drones. Hunting. The human's expression shifted instantly, calm replaced by focus. "We need to move," he said. The Lyra let out a weak laugh. "I can't." He glanced at her injuries, assessing quickly. "Yeah," he said. "I can see that." Another roar, closer this time. He looked down the street, then back at her. And without hesitation, he lifted her. The Lyra gasped as he hoisted her into his arms, the sudden movement sending waves of pain through her body. "What are you doing?" she demanded weakly. "Saving your life," he said simply. "You don't even know me. Doesn't matter." The drones rounded the corner just as he turned and ran. They moved through the burning city, like ghosts. The human, he had given no name, navigated the chaos with uncanny precision, weaving through collapsing structures, ducking beneath falling debris, always staying just ahead of the enemy patrols. The Lyra drifted in and out of consciousness, the world flickering between fire and darkness. But every time she came back, he was still there, still carrying her, still running. "Why?" she asked at one point, her voice barely more than a whisper. He didn't look at her. "Because you're not dead yet." "That's not an answer." "It's enough of one." She frowned, her mind struggling to keep up. "You're risking your life for an enemy." He finally glanced down at her. "Are you shooting at me?"
No.
"Then you're not my enemy." Simple. Too simple. And yet there was something in his tone that made it feel absolute. They reached the outskirts of the city hours later. Or maybe minutes. Time had lost meaning. The inferno behind them painted the sky in shades of red and black. The ground here was quieter, though distant explosions still echoed like thunder. The human finally slowed, then stopped beneath the broken remains of an overpass. Gently, he set her down. The Lyra winced as her back touched the ground, but the relief of not being carried was immediate. He knelt beside her, pulling a small medkit from his gear. "This is gonna hurt," he said. She gave a faint, dry smile. "Everything already does." "Good," he muttered. "Then you won't notice." Before she could respond, he pressed a device against her side. Agony flared, white-hot, blinding. She screamed. When it passed, she was breathing hard, her body trembling. The human sat back, watching her carefully. "Congratulations," he said. "You're slightly less dying now." She glared at him, though there was no real anger behind it. "You have a strange sense of humor. Helps with survival." Silence settled between them for a moment. Then she spoke again. "The Lyra," she said. He raised an eyebrow. "My name," she clarified. "If you're going to save my life, you should at least know it." He nodded.
Ethan.
They rested for a while. The Lyra's strength slowly returned, though she was far from recovered. The medkit had stabilized her, but the deeper wounds would take time. Time they might not have. "Where are we going?" she asked eventually. Ethan looked out toward the distant horizon. "There's an extraction point about 10 kilometers from here. Human dropships supposed to swing by." She frowned. "Your people are here?" "Small contingent," he said. "Observation mission. Turned into something else." She studied him. "You came here knowing this might happen?" He shrugged. "We come everywhere knowing that." She didn't understand that. Not fully. But she didn't press. Instead, she tried to stand. Her legs buckled instantly. Ethan caught her before she hit the ground. "Easy," he said. "I can walk," she insisted. "Not yet." "I am not helpless." "I didn't say you were." "Then stop treating me like I am." There was a brief tension between them. Then Ethan sighed.
"Fine," he said.
"Prove me wrong." He stepped back. The Lyra gritted her teeth and pushed herself up. Her legs shook. Pain flared, but she stayed standing. For 3 seconds. Then she collapsed. Ethan caught her again. This time, she didn't argue when he lifted her. The journey to the extraction point was different. Not easier, but quieter. The chaos of the city faded behind them, replaced by the eerie stillness of a war-torn wasteland. Burned-out vehicles, cratered earth, the occasional distant explosion, and the constant, unspoken awareness that they were not alone. "Tell me something," the Lyra said after a while. Ethan glanced down at her. "What? Why do humans do this?" "Do what?" "Run into fire," she said. "For strangers." He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Because someone has to." That's not a logical answer. "No," he agreed. "It's not." She studied his face. There was no hesitation there. No doubt. Just certainty. It unsettled her. They were close to the extraction point when everything went wrong. Again. A low hum filled the air. Ethan stopped instantly. "What is it?" the Lyra asked. He didn't answer. He was listening.
Scanning.
Then, down. He dropped, shielding her with his body as a blast tore through the ground where they had been standing moments before. Enemy artillery. Precision targeting. "They found us," he muttered. More blasts followed, each one closer than the last. The ground shook violently. Debris flew in all directions. "We need to move," the Lyra shouted. "I'm working on it." He pulled her up again, but this time there was no careful navigation. Only survival. He ran. The world became chaos again. Explosions.
Fire. Noise.
And through it all, Ethan ran. Faster than before. Harder. Desperate. The Lyra clung to consciousness, her vision blurring with each jarring step. "You can't keep this up," she said weakly. "Watch me." Another blast. Closer. Too close. The shockwave threw them forward. They hit the ground hard. This time, Ethan didn't get up immediately. The Lyra turned her head. He was bleeding.
Red. Bright. Human.
"You're hurt," she said. He pushed himself up with a grunt. "I've been worse." That is not reassuring. He gave a strained smile. "It's not supposed to be." He helped her up again. But this time he stumbled. Just slightly. But she felt it.
"You need to leave me," she said. "No."
"You will die." "Probably." "Then why?" "Because you won't." She stared at him. Even now, even bleeding, even exhausted, he was still choosing her. The extraction point came into view. A clearing. A signal beacon. And above it, a ship.
Small.
Human. Descending through the smoke. Relief flooded through the Lyra. "We made it," she whispered. Ethan didn't respond. He just kept moving. Step by step. Closer. Closer. Another blast. This one hit. The ground erupted beneath them. The Lyra was thrown clear, her body tumbling across the dirt. She landed hard, the air knocked from her lungs. For a moment, she couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Then she forced herself up. "Ethan." No response. Panic surged through her. She staggered to her feet, ignoring the pain. "Ethan." She saw him. Lying near the edge of the clearing. Not moving. No. She stumbled toward him, each step agony. When she reached him, she dropped to her knees. "Ethan," she said, shaking him gently. Nothing. Her chest tightened. This couldn't be how it ended. Not like this. Not after everything. "You said," she whispered. "You said I wouldn't die." Her voice broke. "So get up." Silence. Then, a cough.
Weak.
But real. Her head snapped up. Ethan's eyes fluttered open. "Took you long enough," he muttered. Relief hit her like a wave. "You idiot," she said, her voice shaking. "You absolute." Yeah, he murmured. "Help me up." Together, they stood.
Barely.
But enough. The dropship descended fully now, its engines roaring. A ramp extended. Figures moved inside. Human soldiers. "Move," one of them shouted. The Lyra looked at Ethan. He nodded. They walked.
Slow.
Unsteady. But forward. Step by step, they crossed the distance. And as they reached the ramp, the Lyra paused. She looked back. At the burning world. At the war. At everything she had lost. Then she looked at Ethan. At what she had found. And she stepped onto the ship. Hours later, as Kareth, 9 burned behind them, the Lyra sat in silence, wrapped in unfamiliar blankets, surrounded by strangers.
Alive.
Ethan sat across from her, his injuries now properly treated. He looked different. Still tired. Still human. But something else. You saved me, she said quietly. He shrugged. You would have done the same. She shook her head.
No, she said.
I wouldn't have. He frowned. Then learn, he said. The Lyra looked out at the stars. At the endless expanse beyond.
Her home was gone.
Her war far from over. But something had changed. Something fundamental.
Ethan, she said.
Yeah. When this is over. He raised an eyebrow. What? She met his gaze. I think the galaxy is going to learn something about humans. He smiled faintly. Yeah. Yes, she said. That when everything burns. She paused. Then finished. They will still carry others through the fire. Kareth. 9 burned for 3 more days. From orbit, it looked like a dying star. Continents glowing with molten fractures. Oceans boiling at their edges. Entire cities reduced to embers. Inside the human carrier Resolute Dawn, silence hung heavier than gravity. The Lyra stood in the observation bay, hands clasped behind her back, watching the destruction of her world through reinforced glass. She did not cry. Varelians did not cry. But something inside her felt hollowed out. Footsteps approached. She didn't need to turn. You shouldn't be standing yet, Ethan said quietly. His voice was steadier now. His wounds were sealed, though a band of synth fiber still wrapped around his torso beneath his uniform. And you should be resting, she replied. Doctors tried that, he said.
Didn't take.
A faint breath escaped her, almost a laugh. For a moment, they simply watched the dying planet together. Human Command wants to know what you plan to do, Ethan said eventually. Plan, she echoed. Your Empire's fleets are scattered but not gone. There are survivors. Refugees. Resistance cells forming already. She closed her eyes briefly. She could see them. Officers she had trained, soldiers who had followed her into impossible battles. People who believed in her. People who thought she had died in the Inferno. If I return, she said slowly, I become a symbol. That's not a bad thing. It is if the symbol fails. Ethan leaned against the viewport railing. Where I'm from, he said, symbols don't have to be perfect. They just have to stand back up. She turned to him. You make it sound simple. It's not, he replied. It's human. Hours later, the call came. Encrypted. Hidden in the wreckage of shattered communications arrays. Varelian resistance channels were activating. One name surfaced repeatedly. Commander the Lyra Vare. Alive? Unconfirmed. Hope, dangerous, but spreading. The Lyra stood before a human tactical display, watching the data streams populate. They believe I'm dead, she said quietly. Then surprise them, Ethan replied. She hesitated. For the first time since she had worn a command crest, doubt crept into her voice. What if I cannot lead them through this? Ethan looked at her, not as a soldier, not as an alien, but as someone who had once carried her through fire. You don't lead by being unbreakable, he said. You lead by surviving when you should have fallen. Silence. Then she straightened. Decision made. Open a channel, she ordered. The human communications officer glanced at Ethan, who gave a subtle nod. Moments later, a projection field activated. Across the shattered remains of Varelian space, flickers of hidden transmitters came alive. Resistance ships. Buried bunkers. Asteroid outposts. Faces appeared, wounded, exhausted, desperate. And then they saw her. Gasps rippled across the feed. Commander? The Lyra stepped forward. Behind her stood humans. Not conquerors. Not overlords. Allies. I live, she said firmly. The murmurs intensified. Our world burns, she continued, voice steady despite the weight in her chest. Our fleets are broken. Our city's ash.
She paused.
But we are not extinct. The feeds quieted.
We will rebuild, she said.
We will resist. And we will endure. Her gaze shifted slightly, just enough to acknowledge the human presence behind her. We are not alone. Shock flickered across many faces. The humans fought through our fire, she said. They carried us when we fell. Her eyes met Ethan's briefly. And now we stand together. Silence followed. Then one ship signaled allegiance. Then another. Then dozens. A fractured empire began stitching itself back together. Later, in the quiet of the carrier's medical deck, Ethan sat alone, staring at the stars. The door slid open. The Lyra entered. You did not attend the Strategic Council, she observed. Figured I'd leave the galaxy saving to professionals. She approached him. You carried me through artillery bombardment while bleeding internally. He shrugged slightly. Tuesday. She studied him for a long moment. Why? She asked again, softer this time. He considered the question. When I was younger, he began, my home colony got hit. Pirates. We were outmatched. She listened carefully. A stranger came, he continued. Didn't have to. Didn't know us. But he stayed. Fought. Bought us time. His jaw tightened slightly at the memory. He didn't survive. The Lyra's voice lowered. And you carry that with you. Yeah, Ethan admitted. Figured I'd return the favor someday. Understanding dawned in her eyes. You are the stranger now. Guess so. She stepped closer. Then know this, Ethan of Earth. Her tone shifted, formal. Commanding. You did not merely save a life. She placed her hand over her chest crest. You altered the course of a civilization. He blinked. That sounds like paperwork. It is far more than that. Weeks passed. Joint Human Varelian Task Forces began pushing back enemy incursions. Not with overwhelming strength, but with coordination, adaptability, relentless persistence. Humans were strange allies. They laughed in briefings, argued with admirals, improvised strategies mid-battle. And when the fighting grew desperate, they did not retreat first. Word spread through resistance networks. If a human stands beside you, you will not stand alone. The turning point came at the Battle of the Shattered Halo. Enemy forces attempted to annihilate the largest refugee convoy remaining. Outnumbered, outgunned, certain death. The Lyra commanded from the bridge of a rebuilt Varelian cruiser. Ethan stood beside her as tactical liaison. Convoy shields collapsing. An officer called. Enemy dreadnought charging main array. The Lyra's jaw tightened. Human Squadron Delta? She asked. Ethan tapped into his calm. They're already moving. On the tactical display, small human frigates accelerated. Directly toward the dreadnought. No, the Lyra whispered. They won't make it. Ethan's voice was calm. They don't need to. The frigates split formation at the last second, releasing synchronized payloads into the dreadnought's weapon conduits. The resulting overload tore through the enemy ship from within. It didn't explode instantly. It collapsed. Slowly. Inevitably. Like a falling god. The convoy survived. And for the first time since Kareth, 9 burned, the enemy retreated. Celebrations erupted across surviving systems. Not because the war was won, but because hope had returned. In the quiet aftermath, the Lyra found Ethan once more in the observation bay. You were right, she said. He tilted his head slightly. About. Symbols do not need to be perfect. She looked at the fleet outside, human and Varelian ships drifting in shared formation. They need only to rise. He smiled faintly. Looks like you did. She shook her head gently. We did. A long pause. Then she added, "When this war ends, Virelia will remember humanity." "Good or bad?" he asked. She stepped beside him, gazing at the stars. "As the species who walked into our inferno." Her voice grew softer and carried us through it. Far beyond the battlefield, whispers began circulating among rival powers. A new alliance had formed, forged not by treaties, not by politics, but by fire. And at its heart stood a simple, dangerous truth. Humans were not the strongest, not the most advanced, not the oldest. But when the galaxy burned, they ran toward the flames. And they did not let go. On the anniversary of Kareth 9's fall, a memorial beacon was lit in orbit above its recovering surface.